Well, everybody, what's the crack? And welcome back to episode number 26, I think, of the Inline G Flute podcast with me, your host, motherfucking Inline G. Now, as you guys can see, we are not in the Inline G studio. We are in my grandmother's kitchen today because I've just finished recording an episode with my grandmother and my grandfather, primarily my grandfather, for this very special episode as I am home for Christmas. I haven't pre-recorded an episode, so this is going to be edited and thrown out in the next hour. So I'm very sorry, but I get you an episode every week. I'm very good to you. So why have I got my grandparents on the episode? Well, my grandfather, Valerie Houston, was my first ever flute teacher. He has also played in flute bands his entire life. The Houstons are a bit of a well-known name in the flute band tradition of Northern Ireland, all because of him. He started it all. So today I asked him, we sat down, we had a couple of coffees, and we chatted about all things flute bands. So I'm going to let you guys loose on that interview. I'm going to give you two things to say first. Number one, the accent is quite strong, and my accent starts to slip back to my natural accent as I'm back home in Northern Ireland. So I really hope you guys understand. Do your best. I genuinely considered putting subtitles on the YouTube one, but cannot be arsed. That's way too much work. And the second thing, before I let you loose, the usual housekeeping, okay? This is an independent podcast. It's run entirely by myself. I do all the editing, all the graphic design, marketing, audio and video, everything. It's entirely done by myself. It is a free podcast. It will always be free. I will never introduce any kind of subscription service where you can pay for more content. However, if you wish to donate to the podcast, it is incredibly incredibly appreciated. You can find it, the link in the description of wherever you're listening or watching to this, or if you head over to my Instagram page and click on that, you can go and donate me something. I would recommend whatever the price of a pint or Dr. Pepper costs in your country, say once a month maximum. And that just keeps the podcast running. It allows me to turn down a little bit of work here and there to concentrate more time on this podcast. It's incredibly appreciated if you can. If you can't, it's grand. You can listen for free. Now, I'm going to stop talking. The first 10 minutes of this podcast with my grandmother as well, because she insisted on being on it. Her hair, she's wearing a hat because her hairdresser isn't here yet, so please excuse that. But that's what you can hear right now is she's getting her hair done next door. And then after that, it'll be with my grandfather, Flute Band legend, Valerie Houston. Yeah, I don't know why we've got you on, but you're in it now. You look like your man out of Home Alone. You look like Marv out of Home Alone. Do you want to tell everyone why you're wearing a hat? Why are you wearing a hat?
Well, the only reason I'm wearing a hat is because I don't want anybody to, with curls and things, and my hairdresser hasn't turned up.
Sorry, you've got a private hairdresser that comes every Friday.
Yes, and my makeup artist.
You actually do have a hairdresser coming in?
I do, yeah.
She might knock us door in a minute and then... She could do all three of us.
I've always hung on, come to the ice.
Do you still get your hair cut with her? Does she do your hair still?
Yeah, I get my hair done with the same hair cutter.
How much did she charge you?
I'm not saying
£5.
£5 too much.
That's for the tip.
Did she charge him a £5? Really?
That's
daylight robbery.
That's for the 4 hairs.
Right, do you want to tell everyone about your mugs here? Your 2 mugs. Who got you them, first of all? Who got you them? They're very lovely.
My grandson bought us these here for Christmas.
Yeah, why?
It's the cursing grandson now.
Inline G.
And
I'm very proud of him. So yours says number 1 fan. What does yours say? On the other side?
Number 2.
Number 2 what?
What?
Yeah, fuck's sake. You should forgot. Number 2 effing fan.
I can't see.
That's what it says. It says number 2 effing fan. But it doesn't say the actual word. It says effing. Don't you look all shocked? I give it to you on Christmas Day.
I know, but I
you
can't
had a few
see.
Baileys in you at that point now, to be fair to you. So,
now
why did I get you them? Because you do watch the podcast
every week.
We
wouldn't miss it.
Every single week.
Every week.
Yeah.
I love the podcast.
Do you have any favourite episodes?
My favourite episode was mental health.
The mental health one. I in music college and all that.
Yeah, I really thought it was very truthful.
That was your idea.
Yeah, and it was very truthful. And it was for people that was going to college, to let them know what they expect and not just to think they're going to go and they're going to be the odd one out.
Yeah, at this point half our families went to music college now.
Yeah.
Well, me and Ross and Jacob all went. So do you have a favourite episode?
Gary Shocker.
Gary Shocker? Yeah. Oh, he was a good episode, to be fair. It was a big deal getting him on. You love that.
I like that.
I don't know.
The problem with that episode was that was the first time I got through a whole episode without saying a swear word.
Oh, yes. Yes, God.
Until the last 10 minutes.
And then I was going to celebrate night over.
Yeah, and then
I was going.
I let the ball drop at the end.
I was going to like that. I did like it.
You have to like it.
I said it's going well here. He hasn't dropped any odd words, so I hit the button for like.
But do you not like all my other stuff? You have to like everything.
We liked every one of your podcasts, and we've never missed one.
But you have to actually like it. And you have to make sure you click that for me.
You do.
Get that
well, I don't have a phone. So if he doesn't click, it's your grandest
You're not allowed a phone after the last time. Remember what happened with you?
I know.
So, any other favourite episodes? Anything else you like about the podcast?
I did like, I don't know the names. I like the girl.
Canadian.
There was 2 Canadian girls. There was one with the pink hair and the one with the red hair. Pink, yeah.
The last one?
No, the pink one was before actually. That was Jay, and then Jill was last week.
So I thought tonight really the 2 of them were good. To be honest,
I thought
the 2 of them were good, but the one before that was more interesting.
Well, you said the second one was a bit boring.
She wasn't. No, she was a lovely wee girl.
It was his favourite one. He said, he
commented. I thought she was a lovely wee girl and very plain speaking, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you can understand her well, to be fair.
I thought I really enjoyed it. I thought
God help the people trying to watch this episode now.
Frick, I don't know what I'm expecting of an You
understand a word we're saying here? Even my accent's going back the way it was. You know, Ben hates that. Ben watches the podcast, my brother, and he says all the time, I hate the way you say how. I'm only saying how on the podcast. I don't say how. Me, Ben hates that when he says, I hear you say how all the time. You're talking as if you're for money. What about anyone you think I should get on the podcast? Who do you think my next guest should be? Arlene Foster?
Arlene Foster?
No?
No, I think if you could try and get somebody on that really can play a flute, proper flute player that you can talk to. Not your granda, no.
Well, he's on.
I'd say James Galway.
Yeah.
I would love you to get James Galway on because I
don't know. Do you have a number for him? You could message him. Maybe you probably know him better than I do.
I'll send him a message.
Yeah. Make sure you keep talking into the microphone. Stay towards the microphone. You have to make sure you keep talking.
Yes, I'll send him a message.
But you know, we have a family of flautists. As you know, Gareth, and you were brought up all your life with the
I know, but I'd love to interview the rest of the family, but I think a lot of them have to be careful what they say.
But they're all over the place now. I had, as you know, your uncle, he was in the played the solo flute and all the rest of it. But you know, a very good flautist and still is.
Yeah.
And so it's been in the family for a long, long time.
Well, yeah, all your children played the flute at some point or another.
Well, it all started
to varying degrees of success now.
But just all were a success, and I have good children.
I don't know if they were all success now.
No, you
how did my dad get on with the flute?
Your daddy was rubbish. Your daddy was rubbish.
I think out of all of them, my dad holds the record for the least amount of time playing the flute.
When I took him out to Rose Lanes to join, I handled the big long bass.
I know. Well,
I put him off right away.
It would put you off playing the bass flute, yeah.
And then Maxine, she was the other one.
Maxine did all right from what I hear.
But she only could play the anniversary waltz.
That's
the only thing she played.
She's played for about 5 years.
Jodie was a great player.
She a good flute player as well.
She played in Ballygowan.
Seriously, Jodie?
She played in Ballygowan for me.
So we've all given the flute a lash. So apart from you haven't played the flute yet.
I played the drum.
But you've never. I am amazed that you've sat in that room hearing him teach for 50 odd years now or more, and you've never once thought, I'll give it a wee go.
Because I had like a Tennyson in my ears.
Tennyson? Who's Tennyson?
Tennyson?
He works in the laundrette.
No, I've loved all the flutes. I've loved to hear everyone who's playing the flute.
You haven't been put off the flute after all these years of hearing it?
No, never, no.
Because you probably heard more flute than most of us.
Well, I would hear your granda one time had about 54 pupils at one time.
54 pupils at once?
Yeah.
But
there was a time when you had 54 pupils a week coming here?
A week, yeah.
54 people a week coming in here?
Yeah. At the very start, yeah.
That's wild.
And I just loved it. I really loved it.
Because you can hear it, like when you're sitting in there, you can hear it through.
Just love the kids coming in and all and learning the flute. And I do love the flute.
And you had them tortured as well, to be fair to them. Mm-hmm. There was a couple of ones that were in my school as well that came here for lessons, and a few of them were terrified of you. You used to wind them right up. Because you used to say things like, because obviously when they were going in, if they were a wee bit early, they'd have to wait in the hallway before they went in for their lesson, and they'd see you sitting like the Queen Mother in there, and then you would say things to them like, here, he's in a bad mood today. You play your scales wrong. He's been hitting people in there.
Tell them not to go in that wee room.
I don't
go home.
You're the worst for it. Well, yeah, there's been a long tradition of flute playing in the family, that's for sure. Who was the best?
But it's been great to see, you know, the family
to me,
all going forward like this in music.
Well, we're all doing something now, yeah.
And then I had young...
Each generation's getting on a bit further, yeah.
Sure, Ben was a good...
Ben was the best of the lot.
Ben had a lovely tone.
Ben was a brilliant flute player, but he just couldn't be arsed.
Don't forget the aspect of the Owen Wee Brown, who's nearly at the stage of being a professional golfer as well.
Oh yeah, he's done everything, yeah.
My 5 grandchildren, I had 4 played the flute, 1 played golf.
My brother played the flute as well.
But he never really took to the flute at all, but was a good wee golfer.
Yeah.
But the other 4 grandsons, counting the cursing one, that was you, were all very good.
Yeah, they all.
And I went everywhere you went to play, and I enjoyed it.
Which one was the best? Which one was the best flute player out of not just the grandchildren, but the children and everybody out of the family? Who was the best flute player?
I would say Glenn.
Oh, Glenn,
all right, okay. Well, present company is included.
Glenn's a dandy player,
but I thought he was a good player. But for the pick out of my grandchildren, I couldn't.
No, you're not allowed to.
Very similar.
Because my grandchildren are all the same.
Oh, but you can pick Glenn over me though. Right. Well.
But he's twice your age.
Is there anything else you want to say about the podcast before we get into our own proper episode?
I'm sitting here like a monk.
You look just like your man off Home Alone, your man Marv, when he blows the hole at the top.
I'm not going to sit like that.
But you genuinely do have your hair getting done this week. Your woman comes in and sorts it out for you.
I need more of my freaking hair. I'm a nutcase.
Do you know what, to be fair, this kitchen, how many times have we had rehearsals in this kitchen? How many times have we had like quartets in here or trios?
Oh my goodness.
This kitchen it's heard its fair share of music over the years.
I think half of Lisburn's been in this kitchen.
I can still hear the road notes.
Oh God, yeah. Well, now we've got a podcast in it for the first time, so we've got everything in this kitchen.
I'm very proud of you doing your podcast.
Well, thank you very much.
Very proud.
Yeah.
And I think everybody else should be the same.
These are the biggest fans. Well, you tune in every week.
Well, I would want to cut your throat very easy sometimes now. I do get aggressive.
You do get a wee bit aggressive.
I would be a wee bit aggressive.
And this is where I get it from as well. People didn't believe me when I said you threatened to cut my throat.
And I'd do more than that. I would do more than that. I really, literally would love to have walked into your podcast and cut your throat.
You said to me the other week that you had a dream one night.
I did. And that's the truth.
What was the dream?
Well, I dreamt that I got over to where you lived in a flat where I have never seen.
In Cologne,
I dreamt that you were sitting on the podcast, and I just turned around the corner and I cut your throat and you died.
And that's what you dream about your grandchildren?
And the shock of you seeing me killed you.
And not the cutting. The throat cutting didn't get me in the end. It was a mixture of the two, probably, was it?
No, I think the shock of seeing me and you fell to the floor, I still knifed you.
Oh, did you? That's right, okay.
Because you were saying...
No.
Well, that's what I dreamt.
This is what Irish grandmothers are like, for sake.
Kicking you when you're down. Kicking you.
Right, well, on that note, we're going to get into the actual podcast. You can go get your hair done then. And me and him are going to chat flutes.
Okay.
Right, thank you very much.
And I'll tell you, thank you.
Right, we'll leave it there. So yeah, we'll leave it running. We'll do a couple of other things. She's out the back there. Is she whistling out? Excuse me, there's recording in process. Right, well here, we didn't even talk about these, but we've got the medals here. So, first medal I want you to tell me about, or tell the viewers about. 50-year medal. Now, we just talked about this, but we're going to talk about it again. You got presented with a 50-year medal from the Flute Band League in Northern Ireland in 2005.
Yep.
So that means you started playing, officially started joining bands in 1955, is that correct?
That'd be good, right, yeah.
Right, but you might have played a wee bit before then.
Yeah.
When did you pick up the flute?
When did I pick it up?
Yeah, when was the first time? Because you come from a big family as well.
Well, when I did come from a big family, I had a father who was very disciplined, you know, and strict in what we done.
Yeah.
And one night, he came into the house, and my brother Angus was sitting.
Yeah.
And I was sitting beside him, and he says, "You two boys, I have to go in and join a band. And you have to go and do that tonight."
Now, when he said a band, it could be different kinds of bands.
Oh yeah,
as well.
Oh yeah.
They don't just have flute bands here.
Well, he finished up by saying, "Go down and join the Lisburn pipe band." They had a pipe band here at one time.
Oh, bagpipe band, yeah.
And there was also this wee band, a conservative band that I went into eventually.
Yeah. Do you know where the name, Lisburn Conservative comes from? It's not related to the political party, is it now?
Right, I don't know. But then you see you had Argyle Temperance, which I
love that. That's a beautiful name, and they put Temperance in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we both went out just to please them. We didn't know what we were going to do. Didn't know what we were going to do. I said to Angus, "Look, I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to wear no kilt." And I say, I'm not going to go into a pipe band. So you go where you want, and I know where I'll go. Yeah. So he went down into the pipe band, and I went into the flute band. That's how I started, really. Yeah. And I had no interest in music whatsoever. I was more interested in at that stage of my life in football, because I played for a couple of teams in the
You did actually, yeah. You were handy enough left winger, weren't you?
Yeah, in Lisburn, and I was more interested in that. And to go and play in a flute band was the last thing I ever wanted.
So the only reason you picked flute in the end is because you didn't want to wear a kilt in a pipe band?
That's right.
Well, there you go. I think a kilt looks very well as well.
Angus was very, very talented as well. He played the pipes
for years,
great piper, and he was also a good organist. Everyone in the family, my mum, we had a big large family, as you know.
Yeah. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
There was 8 brothers and 3 sisters.
8 brothers and 3 sisters. It's like the old woman that lived in the shoe.
Yeah. But my mum educated us all. Like I did, she sent them all for piano lessons and organ lessons. I didn't. Showed the interest I had in music. I didn't want to do any, so I didn't go to organist or piano lessons or anything like that. And it's by default that I get into music, really.
Just by chance, and you were into playing the flute.
You know, so that's how it started.
And then you went to Lisburn Conservative Flute Band, who unfortunately don't exist anymore. They folded after a while, but you played in them for a few years, conducted them as well.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. How long were you in the Lisburn Conservative?
I would say maybe about 5 years. Well, 5 years at the very most.
Which is not a long time when you think of it either. With band and words, people tend to stick around a wee bit longer.
I finished up with them while they were melody. It's just playing the B flat flutes. I finished up taking the part music as well.
Yeah. Okay. So at the time when they joined, they were only playing single parts.
And then when I took over the band, they're still playing that, but I changed them all into part music for a few years.
Okay, so it's different parts of music, and instead of everyone playing the melody, split it up.
Yeah.
You did that? You were responsible for that?
I done that.
So who would have arranged the music then? Would you have done it?
Yeah.
Ah.
But even when I took on Roses Lanes, they were the simple system.
Okay. Wow, okay, I didn't know that. So simple system, we'll just quickly explain what that was. So that was the flutes, the flute bands would have used. They had six keys, and they were in weird keys as well. So they were in like E flat and B flat and A flat.
B bass,
old military tradition, I think that came from.
But then you see, those flutes were becoming obsolete and getting very hard to get.
Yeah, because Ruddle Cart made them in London, and then they stopped making them for a while.
And then most of the bands were changing over on the concert flutes.
Like the Boehm system flutes then?
The Boehm system, yeah. And I suggested to him, we should go down that road because you're going to find it difficult to get the pairs done and things like that. And they're a wee bit reluctant, we're very reluctant to do that. And they said, this Boehm system is very difficult to learn. And I said, no, it's not really. It's you see the advantages of it.
When you get the hang of it, it's much better. Oh, for Frank's sake, hey! She's playing to bring it through it.
You'll see the advantages of it after.
Excuse me, there's a recording in process here. That's why she never took up the flute. You don't give her a couple of lessons. Give her a couple of lessons. So they moved to Boehm system flutes, which is late because the Boehm system started appearing in the early 1900s, but we didn't adopt it here in Northern Ireland until what, the 60s?
Yes, right.
So everyone was still playing on the old system flutes.
Still playing on the old, and found it very hard to go. But this was in a period about February of the year, and when then come the parading out system, and I said to myself, I'm going to have a struggle here because it could be right, it's about early stages. But they adapted very, very quickly to that. I
suppose you do. When you really get to learn it, you will pick it up, and it's obviously much more flexible. Like I've played some of the old system flutes, and they're hard to play. Embouchure holes are very small. They're very easy to overblow. The keys stick all the time.
Although I remember years ago hearing good bands like Ballygowan Conquerors were one of them. who maybe played the old system.
They stuck with the old system for a long time.
Sounded lovely sound on the platform.
I think it's harder to sound better on the old system flutes, definitely the old 6-key ones. I hated them. I'm glad we got rid of them.
Some lovely sounds there. But
so in Lisburn Conservative, you played there for a couple of years. That was your first flute band. You're teaching yourself flute at this point then? You're not really getting any formal instruction?
No.
Just picking it up through bands, I suppose?
Yep.
I think a lot of my playing was like that as well. And then you went on to, was Rosalind Ends next?
Yeah.
Or was it Argyle?
Argyle was first.
Argyle. So Argyle Temperance Flute Band, they're based in the Shankill. Yeah. Shankill Road in Belfast. Yep, that's right. How did you get involved with them?
As I said to you early back, I met a man who was his son-in-law played the flute in Argyle. Jackie Lewis played the flute in Argyle. He contacted me to say they would like me to go down and join the Argyle Flute Band.
That's it. Oh.
So he brought me down, and in between times when we were walking around the street, he'd hold on. He says, "I'll take you down to see a chap in the Lord Carson first." Yeah,
Lord Carson was another famous band,
and that was my idea of band. I've seen on the road so often; they were so good.
What was their full name? Lord Carson's
Memorial.
Lord Carson Memorial Flute
Lord
Band.
Carson Memorial. And they were a great outfit on the road, And on the platform too, they were very good. So he took me around, and I said, as I said to you, to see a guy who was in it, who was Billy McMurray.
Yeah.
And as I walked through the door, Billy was down playing his piccolo solo, the Rain and the Poplars, as it turned out to be. And I was amazed. I was only about 15 this time.
Yeah.
And I listened to this guy playing, and I said, that's something that I'd love to do.
Yeah.
I'd love to play that piece,
It is a cracking piece as well. A lot of those piccolo pieces were great. So you always had one piccolo in the flute band, and it was kind of, I think it's fair to say, it would have been your best player. Usually you would have stuck on piccolo, wouldn't it? Or one of your best players would have played the piccolo.
The hardest one was 2 or 3, and I played with the ensembles. Rain and the Poplars, and then there was Deep Blue Sea. I found it difficult. It
is tricky. There's a lot of scales in it and a lot of flying up and down.
And then I played Picaroon. Actually, I didn't play that as an octet. I played that as a solo unaccompanied in Ballygowan.
Totally a solo? No piano, no nothing?
And Ballygowan, the small ensemble thing.
That's a brave one to get up on stage and play piccolo, no other instrument, just for the couple hundred people.
It's very exposed,
Oh, it isn't half, the piccolo.
So I think I got second that day, and lucky I got second, but I got second, and I remember
that's a brave one.
Still the bits because I got that.
Yeah. So when you go to the Argyle, John Murdy's involved with them at that time.
John Murdy was on his later stage of his life, He was in his 80s,
Because he was quite a pioneer with flute bands.
Still had a great ear for it, And I remember, playing a piece one night, and I was sitting playing. I was the youngest in the band, but I remember I made a mistake, and right away just stopped the band, and he looked all around, didn't say anything. And Billy told me, the solo player beside me, says, "Put your hand up."
Oh yeah.
And I said, "Mr. Murray, that was me. I know that was you, son.
But I wanted to save you a minute.
When you make a mistake in your hand, in this band," he said, "don't have me looking around to see who it was. Just put your hand up."
Yeah. Was he tough as a conductor? Was he a tough taskmaster, or was he all right?
No, he was very subdued in his later years, but he was really had a great ear.
Yeah.
Even at that age,
He was a real pioneer of flute bands. Well, I've done a lot of research on him.
He was, it's unfortunate within the late stage. I remember I wanted to go to lessons from him, but he wouldn't do that because he said himself, like, I would never live long enough to see how he worked out.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if he's in his late 80s, he's a young fella.
So that's why I went to Harry Gillespie after that.
Another very famous player,
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, when you're going for a flute lesson with Harry Gillespie, what are you doing? What would he teach you?
It wasn't a flute lesson, it was for theory.
Okay, just theory then.
Yes, I wasn't all that long with him, but he asked me to do scores for him and things like that.
Okay, so like reading music.
That was an experience.
Arranging that kind of thing. That's very interesting. You get exposed to that at a young age, then you start getting involved in that.
I got a lot of benefit from that,
Yeah, because it's a real education you get in the flute band thing, because you do learn how to read music as opposed to Irish traditional music where you play by ear.
You study the scores.
We do score study, we do things like that.
I found that great,
And obviously you have to study a little bit of the orchestral scores too, because when we're arranging for flute bands, we need to arrange from the orchestral scores, so you have to learn how to read orchestral scores too.
Yeah. When I was conducting, I took some chances, you know, from the original scores, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah.
And another man that's done the same thing was Paddy Bell.
Paddy Bell, he was involved with Ravenhill.
He was the Ballywalter.
Oh, Ballywalter.
Paddy was a great conductor and a tremendous player, and he used to say to me, you know, Brian, you take some chances, and so do I. And he said you deviate from the score quite a bit.
Yeah.
He said, I found this, like myself, it works sometimes and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But look at the pleasure you get when it does work.
Yeah, I know, it's worth taking the risk. It was very competitive back in those days as well.
I think it's all about that, you know. Put your own feelings into
chance your arm. It was competitive though, I think, back in those days. Did you go on the stage with Argyle? Did you contest with them?
Argyle?
Yeah.
Oh, I played with them. I played the year they won it. I was
the senior? They won the senior? World Championships?
World Championships.
Wow.
And I was only in about 15 or 16 years of age.
And they won it that year?
They won it that year.
You don't remember the piece though, do you?
I don't.
No.
It was a Schubert arrangement or something, but I can't remember.
Oh, I know. I think I know which one you're talking about. It was.
I can't remember what.
For a while, they did the song. Oh, I can't remember the name of it now. There's a song. Da dee da dee da da dee da dee da dee. Oh, that's a good test of my knowledge now.
Forget that one. It could have been a mixture of.
That sounds like one of the symphonies. Then I'll have to look that up. Yeah, but it was amazing that they were arranging that kind of stuff for flute bands.
I can't even remember the year, Gareth, to tell you the truth. But it was.
I have a list somewhere of all the years. I'll find that out.
I was.
So that was your first World Championship medal?
I was a bundle of nerves sitting on that platform.
Well, the platform was at the Ulster Hall then, so big venue, very famous venue, very respected venue.
The first thing, I think it was maybe the first time I was on a platform playing, and
in the Ulster Hall in front of a couple of hundred people.
First notice struck, I thought I was on my own.
I know, that's actually, because they've renovated the Ulster Hall since then, they've done a bit of work on it, but pre-renovation, I always remember playing with the Flute Band. There was a couple of dead spots on the stage where you can't hear a thing, and it usually tended to be where the solo concert would sit, or that area. If you played a note, you didn't hear a thing around you. That's
what I heard, you know. I started to play and I said, where are they all?
Yeah, you would genuinely think you're on your own. Yeah, I hated that.
That was a big experience for me. And one other experience was I decided to have a drink of water or a drink of orange or something before I went on.
Okay.
And that just dried up completely.
Oh.
And it took me, a few seconds to get back into the playing. Really,
well, there was a few dodgy traditions beforehand. I think you were probably one of the few players who was only drinking water or orange juice beforehand, because I remember a few of the days, like even the really good bands, a few of those players would have had a few pints before they went on. Yeah. And they would have done all right as well. Yeah. Those days are... Excuse me. Sorry to the audio listeners there. Yeah, so you played in the Argyle. You stayed there. You conducted the Argyle as well for a while. Yeah. Then you left and you stopped the flute for a wee while.
I did, and then Hunter Moore came on. I think after that was, and I hadn't been.
No, Rose and Ends would have been first, I think.
Rose and Ends,
the 80s then, 70s, 80s. I know you've had that many bands, yeah. So I can't imagine you stopping the flute. How long did you stop the flute for?
So you stopped it, remember, for a year?
I did, yeah. I stopped it for a year. I hated it at that point. I was about 14. I gave up for a year.
And then you came back with a vengeance.
I did, yeah.
The time you stopped, I said, "What's wrong with Gareth?" Because he's doing so well.
Beer and girls, yeah. But I stopped for about a year, and then I think you're right. Yeah, you stop for a year and you miss it. I'm glad I did stop. I properly stopped as well. I didn't touch the flute for a year. Didn't go to music lessons. Didn't really anything, and then I came back to it stronger.
Yeah,
it's that age. It's like 14, 15. Everyone sort of.
I just. Stopped for a while, to get a rest, I think, away from it. And then, as I said, back into it again, and then
off to Roses and Ends,
took it more serious,
Yeah, well, you went to Roses and Ends. We've talked about this, so for anyone listening that hasn't listened to the episode on flute bands, I would recommend listening to that before this to get all the lingo and all the terms of it. But Roses and Ends were not a senior band; they were much lower down.
They were a junior band,
Yeah, so they weren't like one of the better bands in the country, to say the least.
No. But they used to be a great band at one time, I believe. I know it's before my time in bands, but they were a good band at one stage.
Okay.
But they weren't never in the top grade, you know.
Yeah, they never got to that level.
No,
yeah.
no. And I didn't get out of that.
But then, so the bands, they'll have their World Championships, which are normally like October, November time.
Yeah.
You have a couple of other ones throughout the year, but one of the big ones, which is where these medals are from, is the solos and small ensembles.
Yeah.
So that's a competition over 2 Saturdays. I think it's only 1 Saturday now. In April, where your band can submit players for different categories in solos or small ensembles, and you represent your band, and you get points for how you do in each section. So there's age categories: under 10, under 13, under 16, open, and you can get it on the concert flute. You can do duet section. There's a quartet section. I think there's an octet is the highest it goes.
Yeah.
There's an octet as well. And then, so you can send your band to that. And you guys at Rosalind Ends then...
You also had percussion in that as well.
Percussion as well, that's right. So at Rosalind Ends, you weren't a competition band, but for the solos and small ensembles, you cleaned up.
You've done very well on it, yes. Very successful, you know. We come out after the competition. Over the 2 weeks, there was a award appointed for the band that received the most points. Yeah,
for like how successful you did in the different categories, you got points.
We had that. We won that. We were in that position for 4 years in a row,
which is incredible because you were up against the likes of Ballyclare, Victoria, Ballygowan, the big names of the flute band world.
Yeah, that's made it most exciting and most challenging for me to do. And the more I seen of this, the more I wanted to do it. Was a small band like I had, and hadn't got the nucleus of good big players that most of the senior bands had, but I was able to pick out 8 players to do all this, and it was very rewarding, and I found it very nice to know that there were senior bands in there, and we were as good as...
But like you must have had to drill them, because like the solos and small ensembles, if you're talking like 8 players, like when I did it when I was younger, I was in every section. Like on the Saturday, I was playing about 7 times. I would have done the duet, the quartet, because you got points just for entering. So we would have been pushed just to enter to get something together. But the week before, we were in this kitchen, I don't know how many times, with pages of music and people coming in and out the doors. You go, are you doing the trio? Are you doing the duet? Go start practicing. And you just got it together. But for you guys to do it at that level, you must have done some rehearsing.
Yeah, well, I found it good from a point of view for myself as well, as I was involved. Not as conducting really, as playing with them.
Yeah, I organising more. Yeah,
I played and I found that a benefit, because when you're sitting in there playing yourself with it, you can hear everything going on in there.
Yeah,
and you know the abilities of each player, and you try to sort things out.
So you took it. I'm assuming then you would have got rehearsing early before these ensembles, and you would have really took it seriously then. That was your big point of the year. Point of the year was to...
It was a highlight of the year really for us, you know, and as I say, we were very successful, and the people that I worked with were committed as well, because we had, as you say, a lot of work on in here and a lot of work on other houses and in Ballinderry where Rosalind is, you know.
Yeah.
So it was commitment that brought the success more than anything else.
Which is incredible, because again, it's such a small band's probably doing them a disservice to say that, but they are a smaller band.
Yeah, and the catchment area is small out there. It's hard to get.
Yeah, well, we were saying this. So Rosalind Ends is, we can't even call it a village really. It's a hamlet maybe at best.
You wouldn't know it's anything really. It's just a nice, lovely wee place to drive through, and to say there's a bicycle shop and
a post office.
It was a post office, I think, and that was it.
And that's it. So it's just in the middle of nowhere, out in the outskirts of Lisburn.
Exactly.
There's not much to it at all.
There's a lot of families, you know.
How many people do you reckon would live there?
Rosalind was built up of those families in that area.
It is all 1 or 2 families, isn't it?
The Yars and the Fars and
the Tottens.
Yeah. All those people were really into music. For instance, Richard Yars works with the BBC.
Yes, that's right.
And Robert Yar was an organist and things like that.
That's right, yeah.
He was a great player as well in the band.
I just find it incredible that you guys were able to compete with those big senior bands, being such a small band. But then after that, you did go to a senior band. You went to Ballygowan after that then?
At the Ballygowan. And
now, up to this point, sorry, just for context, Ballygowan, had they won a world championship before you took them on as conductor?
No, not to my knowledge. No. They admitted that themselves when they asked me to take them on. They interviewed me in the White Gables Hotel.
So you got interviewed for the job of conductor
in Hillsborough, just because you know, they're looking someone try to lift them out of the bottom rung where they were maybe, and seeing the success that I've had with Rosen Lanes and the small ensemble, and things, I said, "Well, this man can maybe help us," you know.
Yeah.
So they interviewed me up in the White Gables, and I said to him, you know, you're a senior band. I had never taught a senior band before, and they said, well, I laughed, you know, we're not a senior band.
Yeah, we're just about keeping in the section.
Says, we're going to put it to you, should we step down and
go to the junior
and intermediate section? So I really wouldn't do that. That's the sign of defeat right away.
It is, yeah.
I'd rather you stay there and work hard with me, and if you work hard with me, I promise you I'll make you world champions in 5 years.
Which is that's a big statement, yeah.
And then I said, what did I say for?
Well, it got you the job anyway.
Yeah. So, you know, we took them on anyway, and, you know, the success wasn't immediate. It took quite a wee while, but we had wee minor successes along the way in the 5 years, knocking at the door and things like that. And then we're going really well. And I remember it was on Black Day, I think I was walking Ballymena or Ballyclare, the Black was out, and I was walking along with John Dawson, a member of the band, and turned and said, "Man, you made us a promise."
Aye, that you get it.
I said, "What was that, John?" He said, "You said you'd have us world champions in 5 years. This is the 5th year.
So
this is
on
August.
Your bike.
This is August, and the competition's in November. What are we going to do?"
And
I says, "Well, if I promise you, I intend to commit that."
And you did?
That commitment.
You did, didn't you? It was 5th year.
Well, I have to put it this way. The championship, about 3 weeks before, I had the band working well for the championship, maybe 2 weeks, not sure.
Yeah.
And then I left.
Okay.
Right. And,
why did you leave?
Well, I just... I thought the band wanted to go in our direction.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that, but
okay.
I left anyway, and it was taken over Richard Highlands.
Ah.
Took him on.
Obviously, some kind of relation to Windsor Highlands.
What do you call it? Windsor.
Oh, Windsor. You're talking about Windsor
Highlands. Sorry.
Okay.
I remember him saying to me, you know, before the band went on in the Ulster Hall, I was walking through just with somebody, and he called me back and said, "Ben, why did you do that? Why did you leave?" He says, "Means I'm only taking them on what you've done."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, that's Windsor. It's all right. Just all the best."
Yeah.
So they only won, you know, and Windsor put a lot of.
And they did win that year, yeah. Which we were talking about it. So that kind of era was Ballygowan. Ballygowan now are such a famous band. They're the superstars of the band in the world.
One of the very best.
But it started then. But at that time, the big stars of the band in the world, and probably the greatest band, arguably of all time, would be Ballyclare Victoria under Arthur Fleming.
Up to that point, yeah.
That was the band. Which, you give them a run for their money at least then. Yeah. You would have had them on their toes then between you and Arthur Fleming. There was a bit of a battle for a few years in the senior championship between Ballyclare and Ballygowan and yourself and Arthur.
But I remember we, I think it was, the piece was the Turk in Italy, was it? Or we were second, Ballyclare were first. But I remember they had a prize presentation.
Yeah.
Some hotel in Belfast, and it came to the adjudication. It came to the interpretation prize, you know.
Yeah.
And they called it. An examiner called. I don't know how to make this decision, but he says there was 2 conductors, and I must say I think the 2 conductors of this have been in the same room for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
He said because their interpretation was nearly identical.
Yeah.
And it was Artie and myself.
Yeah.
Ballyclare, you know.
Yeah.
And myself. So I shared that, Artie and I.
Which is a great compliment to be compared to Arthur Fleming, because he was a great conductor.
Actually, he was, and he was, you know.
Arguably the best, maybe, or one of the best of all time for flute bands.
Arguably the best, you know.
Yeah, I would say so, to be honest.
You know, great, you know, it's just the band was on all the time, and he just had to do that.
Yeah,
it happened. And
you're right. Like I've heard recordings of Arthur Fleming's Ballyclare, and the tuning, the intonation is impeccable. Which for 30 odd flutes is not easy going.
Yeah, that was back in the time that I was going through. Now the bands, the two bands that really straight. You got to give credit, Gareth, to every band goes on that platform. Every band is,
because there's a lot of work and dedication. Obviously, no one's being paid for it either. They're all doing it.
But there's the Ballygowan and there's the Ballyclare.
Ballyloan at the minute.
It's a Ballygowan and Ballyloan, and those two.
At the minute they're really vying for the top spot.
Tremendous playing from both bands. I've listened to.
I've watched them a few times. Yeah, it's hard to put something between them.
It really is, and it's all good to do with the commitment that they have.
It is, yeah.
To get there,
because it's not just quality of players. Like, good players helps obviously, but I think it's making sure you're rehearsing regularly, that everyone's turning. Like when I played in bands, I used to hate it when I played in bands. So when I played under Glenn. Obviously Glenn conducted Kelswater and then Ballyclare, and when I was a teenager we rehearsed every Tuesday and Thursday for a while up to the contest, and I was never allowed to miss it. And Tuesday night was Champions League night. The football was always on, and every time Chelsea were playing in it, he was like, you cannot miss it. I have missed so many big football matches because I was never allowed to miss one rehearsal.
But isn't it great to sit inside a big band like that? Everybody's so rehearsed,
and you're all pulling for the same thing, and you're working together,
and you're afraid even to make a slight mistake,
the tension. Oh my goodness. Like Glenn, I'll ask you about him in a minute, but as a conductor he was a brilliant conductor, and he really got people on side, but he was terrifying. Like I was very scared of playing a wrong note with him.
You think I wasn't?
I know, and he's your son, yeah. Who was Arthur Fleming a tough conductor, do you reckon, or do you reckon he was tough with his bands?
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, Artie outside, gentleman, and I...
Because I've met him, he's a very sweet man, and you wouldn't imagine him as being a disciplinarian.
And I have never spoken very friendly with Ballyclare boys, but none have ever spoken about him in any other way.
Yeah.
Than that, he could shape the music like nobody could,
I know, he was an incredible conductor. I'll try and dig out some recordings, see if I can put them online of the Arthur Fleming era. Obviously a lot of people recognise the name Fleming because his son Colin was principal flute of the Ulster Orchestra for many years, up until last year I think Colin retired. Still, I think Colin, I believe he's playing with Ballyclare again.
He is, yeah.
So a great tradition up there of flute banding. But the thing I always find fascinating with your career is you've took on a load of different bands. You took on Ballygowan, you went to the very top, but you never went back to the top level senior bands. You were never tempted to go back to never tempted to go for another senior band and go for another world championship.
No, I wouldn't have that. Things have progressed so much now with the bands, instrumentation and everything else.
Yeah.
I've lost contact with most of that,
You reckon? I'm sure you've been approached by bands over the years.
You would get into it okay, but the instrumentation and all, and it was quite basic when I was taking them, Not only alone that, but a time comes when you say to yourself, I've done that.
Yeah.
I still love the interest in the flute bands. I love going down to listen. I love teaching what I'm doing. I love taking my flute orchestra. I want to bring it on, do what I'm doing.
But you couldn't be tempted out of retirement for a senior band for one last go? I know if one of the bands rang you up and said, listen, just for one contest, when you come back out, take the baton up.
I probably would,
Would you?
I probably would. I enjoyed it so much. I used to go on the platform and say to myself, even when Glenn had the band, I knew they were properly rehearsed.
Yeah.
And I used to go and say, right, there's nobody going to beat us here if we play this the way we play. I was so confident about that, and it's a nice feeling,
It is. It is.
To feel that you've done the job, you've rehearsed properly, and now let's
go and enjoy it to an extent.
Yeah.
It's hard to enjoy it though, like the nerves I got playing those band competitions. Because big rooms as well, everyone's playing the same piece, so there is a competitive aspect. A wrong note is going to let you down. You're going to lose with a wrong note or two. You have to be very on your game. Did you have any, do you have any pre-performance like rituals or anything you would have done or anything you would have been careful of, or any superstitions?
Oh no, nothing.
No, you wouldn't have been like that? Because there was a few in bands. I know that a couple of bands had a few superstitions, but you wouldn't have had any?
No, nothing like that, Gareth, no.
No players that would have had any?
No.
No one ever got suspicious or had to eat certain things or be at a certain time or wear a certain thing, or no, everyone just rocked up?
No.
Oh, that's very impressive.
Never had anything like that, no.
Well, I suppose now we're talking about bands. It is a shame to see the flute bands, I'd say over the last certainly the last 10 to 15 years, the membership numbers have went down.
Oh, right.
The support rates went down compared to like the heyday. You're talking in the 70s, 80s and 90s, you would have had a full Ulster Hall.
Full attendances, the bands and all, you know, that's great.
You know, so how, like even in the World Championships, how many people are we talking? How many bands would have played in the senior section, for example?
Well, when I was at the very early stage, when I was involved in the bands, there was 12 in the senior section.
So that's 12 in just the senior section.
And there used to be 8 or 9 in the intermediate.
So like that's a good 21 bands already.
Oh yeah, it was great.
With 20 to 30 flutes each.
Yeah.
And a handful of percussion.
And it just disappeared like that, you know. So.
And Northern Ireland's a small country, to get all those bands together playing to that level.
And it was great to be involved in those days too, because you can imagine all the band rooms in Northern Ireland on a certain night all going to get practicing.
Yeah. I want to talk again about Jimmy. So James Galway obviously played in flute bands, but he played with the 39th, and Billy Dunwoody was his.
Yeah, but that 39th was like a training ground.
They're a funny band, aren't they? Because I don't know if we call them. There's a feeling. I don't even know if I would call them. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but I don't know if I'd call them a flute band in that sense.
No,
they were almost like an academy.
But I do remember them on parade.
Did they parade?
Oh yeah, years ago. I remember particular one parade to Hill Hall. It was
in Lisburn.
In Lisburn, yeah. And they wore this like a dark maroon jackets. I remember them as well.
Oh, they had a uniform and all as well.
And they did appear on the road quite often, like.
Because the 39th Old Boys Flute Band, I never knew them. I don't think they ever contested, did they?
And they're good. They were very good on the platform when they did it.
Did they?
You know, yeah.
They did a lot of concerts. I think they did a lot of charity stuff and a lot of fundraisers
and they were good. They were great. Seemed to be like a great training ground for good.
I don't know what there was going on over there, but yeah, like obviously Jimmy played with them, Jimmy Galway, but there was Guy Arbuthnot, Aisling Agnew, Gareth McLaren. They've all came from the 39th.
Some great players come out.
They just churned out great flute players year after year.
I remember in the solo ensembles and things, there were a lot of players come out of there from 39th band room, you know.
Did you ever get to know Billy Dunwoody?
I knew Billy well. Yeah. Young Billy, I knew his dad as well. Young Billy was great, you know.
Yeah. He's a real character from what I hear as well.
Character. I remember one time he rang me up to see if I'd play it was a Christmas thing in the church or somewhere, and he rang me to see what I would help him out.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, of course. So I rode down and I didn't know what I was playing. But he came in at the last minute. He's always at the last minute.
I've heard
a real great guy. And I said, Billy, what am I playing here?
Yeah.
I said, so it's like a Marks and Spencer's bag or something like that.
Like a plastic bag.
Pick something out of that.
And away you go.
And the whole congregation.
It was just take something and go.
It's a character, but he was a real enthusiast, you know.
Yeah. I know. Well, to be fair, it's incredible. And obviously, he was very responsible for great players.
Yeah.
You came across Jimmy Galway. Then you would have seen him or known of him when you were younger. I'm assuming. Was there talk about him in the flute band circles when you were a teenager? Like, oh, you have to hear this fella Jimmy down in Belfast?
There wasn't a lot of talk in those stages because the first time I ever met him was when his father brought him down to see John Worley bouts. I don't know what it was for. I was only in the band at the time. And he came down, very young fella.
Yeah.
Very slim. And
very big, thin fella,
palish.
Yeah.
You know. And his dad was with him and he had his wee flute box and they had a conversation with John Murray and introduced him to the band and all, you know.
So at this point he wasn't well known then? Nobody...
No, I think he was just back in training, you know.
Okay.
You know, he's university or college over in England somewhere. He was actually away at his home at that wee period in time he is.
Okay, yeah, I guess...
But that's the last I seen him and then... all of a sudden he became famous.
Yeah, he became Jimmy Galway, yeah.
That's right.
Because he played with flute bands, but he obviously played with the 39th, who weren't really a band that he would have performed very often. And then also, at such a young age, he went off to London to study at the Royal College of Music, or Royal Academy, I think he went to, or Guildhall, whatever. And that was it, he was away. But you were telling me, which I cannot believe still, is... So the solos and small ensembles competition we're talking about, Jimmy Galway came back to judge it.
I actually won that day too with the quartet that I had. I just remember now.
Oh, he's won? So Jimmy would have came back because obviously we're redoing all of this, but Jimmy would have came back, probably would have been in the London Symphony Orchestra at this time, would have been principal through the London Symphony. He came back to judge a small local flute band solo competition. That's right. Like, and I'm saying he probably wouldn't have got paid for it either. If he did, he wouldn't have got paid much.
I don't think he'd have got paid for it. You know, it would have just been a great privilege for him, for the flute band to have him there.
To have the best flute player in the world coming over to judge, that's incredible.
He came in that day. Actually, the week before that, it was the second week of the competition. The week before that, I had the quartet in. We were second, I think, with it. But it had the same piece the next week.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And I won under him.
Yeah.
But the at the end of his adjudication and the results now come out, got the stand ovation, and then somebody shouts, a lot of them shouted rather, Jimmy, give us a wee number.
Well, you have to get Jimmy Galway to play for you, don't you?
So he had no flute with him at that point.
Probably didn't trust to bring his gold flute back to Belfast.
So there's a couple of wee girls sitting in the front row there, and he said, "Let me your flute, love." And took it up and he started out that, and he seen the elastic band on the end.
Oh God, I remember that. Yeah,
but he footed about it a wee bit, and he started to play it. It was some of the variations from the Carnival of Venice.
Oh, I know it well, yeah.
And I tell you, Gareth, I never heard a sound like it, even in those.
Even on a wee banged up student flute in a cold hall in Ballygowan.
It just filled the whole room.
Yeah.
Amazing. I was amazed.
I know. He is an incredible player. We were saying
the greatest player I've ever heard.
I do think part of it, because obviously he has a very unique sound, a very unique way of playing the flute.
Well, he's more colours to his music as playing as well as anybody.
But it's one of the few flute players you can listen to and go straight away, that's Jimmy. We know that's Jimmy. Straight away.
Right away.
And I do think a little bit of that is responsible because of flute bands. Like, flute bands are responsible for that to an extent, because the nature of the style of playing. They try to
model themselves on the style and his playing and his tone, and it's a lovely sound.
Well, we feed back into it as well. So we were saying, like, I think it's responsible in a small part to why Jimmy plays the way he does, is because when you play in a flute band, for example, you have to play play loud all the time, because you're playing an orchestral score every inch for flutes. It's not really like this American or English tradition of flute choirs. It's not like that. Flute bands are much more hardcore, they're much heavier, bigger sounds.
There's a great learning in flute bands. You know? If you get in there, it's a great learning, but
the sound you can get from them as well.
You can get in that sound, and as you say, you know, your first a lot of people in the bands even today, model themselves on the sound that Galway has.
Yeah, so we fed back into that then. Jimmy got famous and we all went, we loved that sound, and we copied it.
It's good Irish sound, a good.
It is. It's a very Northern Irish way of playing.
A unique sound, and nobody else has that.
Like in the modern world, like I think when I was growing up, the flute players we would have been watching in the band scene would have been the likes of Glenn, Richard Douglas, Darren Canmore, Robbie Moffat to an extent as well.
Players,
and you can hear Jimmy in their playing. You can hear that link.
Yes.
I don't think I have it as much in my playing, but I think those lads definitely did. Which I find fascinating, because Jimmy picked it up from flute bands and then he gave it back to flute bands, and they've picked it up that way. But I always felt like that was the thing about bands, is like you watch bands on the road as well. What makes a great band when they're parading is all the players playing. You can make a small band of like 10 players sound like 50.
Oh yes, of course.
If they're good enough players.
I mean, that's what I remember one time. When I was teaching Rosen Lanes, I had maybe only 20 flutes out there.
Yeah.
And we're going through Ballyclare and Black Day one day, and it was Arthur Fleming.
Yeah.
I seen Artie going on the way up, stand watch, and then coming down the stand, they called me over. And he said, "Brent, where'd you get that sound from? For a small band like that?" He said, "Really big, you know."
Yeah.
And I said, "Artie, know the difference between that and somebody going out with 30 or 40 flutes?" So all them guys are never miss a note. So they're all in there playing their hearts out.
Yeah.
Because I know they're a small band.
Yes, you have to
when
be
you
sure.
go to a senior band, and I was one of the culprits, so everybody knows. I'll take a break here or a breath, and
it was always a way, yeah. You used to play
on here.
Yeah.
And that's it. I was the boy.
I was knackered when I did parading. I was knackered because you'd be walking for miles and you'd be playing all the time, loud the whole way through. And it's not like the American system again, because you're walking down like wee country roads in the middle of nowhere, up and down hills, past fields, through people's back gardens and all half the time. It is rough sometimes getting that sound out of it.
Well, Roseland Ends had a good playing ability on the road. You know, they were when they were in good form, and maybe up to 24 flutes, they were really good on the road. Yeah.
Brilliant. So that's the door going for your hairdresser, but we'll wrap up here in a few minutes. What else I want to ask you? But yeah, do you have, just out of curiosity, do you have a favourite ever piece that you've played in the flute band? Anything you've ever played that you thought worked particularly well for a flute band? Because I know I was always brought up on a strict diet of Rossini, von Suppe, all those kind of Italian overtures.
I do like one particular overture. I think it's lovely sound, the Sicilian Vespers.
Sicilian Vespers, that's a flute band classic.
I really like that piece, you know. There's lovely.
I'll stick a wee recording of that in, for everybody.
A lovely theme tune, the melody, you know, it's really neat. I love that piece.
I have to stick that in for
and
the listeners.
The other one I like was the overture, Stuck and Ladder.
Stuck and Ladder, Rossini. There's a devil of a piccolo part in that as well.
I remember, I like that.
I'll put some of that in, just to let the listeners hear what a flute band sounds like, you know. So the last thing, two things I want to talk about. So ahead.
You know, the music in flute bands play is all very listenable.
It is very melodic. We love like the romantic era, you know, all that classical romantic.
And I love going down there to the own choice to listen to, because I know it's some good music on there and some great playing from all the bands. And I spend the whole day down there, just never go out of my seat.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Because again, we don't tend to do baroque stuff either, or it's always just tunes. You want great melody. That's cheesy melody. We love all that romantic.
That's right.
Operatic stuff, operatic fantasy. I love all that. I think that's where my taste for it comes from. So yeah, the last thing, you're not conducting the band now, but you have got the Lisburn Flute Orchestra.
Yep.
So we've talked a little bit about that, because there was a bit of a movement, I'd say about 15 years ago, where the Scottish bands, I'm thinking of people like Carluke Primrose, they changed their name to Orchestral Flutes as away from Flute Band. It is purely just a name change. It didn't really mean anything else, but I think changing the name opens, because the word flute band unfortunately has certain connotations. I think a lot of people will view it as, flute bands are only for Protestants.
Oh no.
So that's why changing the name might just open up the door, because that's all you have to do. You change the name and people are into it. But you've got the Lisburn Flute Orchestra. Tell us about that. What is the Lisburn Flute Orchestra?
Well, I started this back when Glenn had it. First of all, that was a community thing as well.
Yeah.
All aspects of the community, didn't care what you were.
Yeah.
And then with his business as the way it was, building up it at home, he hadn't time to do it.
Yeah.
So it more or less faded away. And then about a year ago, some of the members that were in at that time asked me, could I take it back on again?
Yeah.
And I took it on the same basis.
Yeah.
Community, if anybody wants to come
Catholic, Protestant, everyone's welcome.
And purely for no monetary value to anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
It's to do with charities.
Yeah.
And I put to each
so every concert you raise money for a charity then?
Yeah, and I say to all the members now, if anybody here has a charity, let me know now, so we'll work towards it, for, say, for Christmas or sometime.
Yeah.
I'm going to play the appropriate music for that. And
you arrange the music as well then?
I arrange the music as well. And we've done that this year, and I intend to carry on that through the summer with different music into homes and things like that.
Yeah, so old folks' homes and
Yeah, and
it's essentially like everything apart from the name sounds like a flute band. It's run the same way. Yeah, same kind of music, same ethos.
Same teaching. Yeah. Same thing, looking for the bigger sound.
Yeah. Just changing the name to make sure it's accessible.
That's correct.
That's great. And last thing, sorry, I don't think the cameras or the audio will pick this up, but she's getting her hair done. The future of flute bands. So we're in a bit of I wouldn't say a dark place with flute bands, but we're not in the best spot we've ever been in with the flute bands. What do you think the future of flute bands is, and do you think it'll get better?
Hopefully it will. I can see that the flute band situation will be here for a long, long time.
You don't think they're going anywhere, no?
We don't. There's no sign of it going any further below where we
can't really go lower, can it?
But I do think there are an upward trend for the building, have more bands in there. I can see that happening when you go down. Maybe 4 years ago when I went down to the health centre here to see the
Civic Centre, yeah.
Civic Centre to see. I was a wee bit worried, but since then I've seen a build up.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll get back.
We're back on the cycle then, yeah. Because again, I think the flute bands have so much to offer, especially those kind of flute bands, because you can learn an instrument for free. Yeah. You got a learner's class, you don't have to pay any money to it. Anyone, all kids can just be sent along on a Wednesday night and you come along the flute.
And I mean to say, there is a learning and playing in the flute band.
And it's, again, it's proven the pedigree of like the amount of Northern Irish flute players that come out of Northern Ireland. We don't have a conservatoire, we only have one professional orchestra. We don't have professional musicians here, but they go on to play to an incredibly high level because of this flute band tradition. It's constantly churning out great education, music theory lessons, everything all free.
That's right.
I think it's got a great role to serve in the community still, but sometimes the Flute Band League don't always cover themselves in glory. Sometimes I think there's sometimes a small hesitation to adapt or to modernise in certain ways, which I would love to see. But apart from that,
it was on a low way up and all. Even when the COVID came in there, I said, well, this could be the wreck of everything.
I thought COVID was going to kill them off, to be honest.
Delighted to see after that everything that started off back up again.
Well, they're the perfect thing for post-COVID, aren't they? Like, people want to get back out, they want to make friends, they don't want to spend money because they're skint. This is the perfect thing.
And it was really nice to see everybody back to doing what they were doing formerly.
Yeah. It's great. I'm glad to see flute bands on some kind of way up. I hope that this podcast opens people's eyes to it. If you're listening to it, please go check out the bands. Which bands have we talked about today? Ballygowan Flute Band, Ballyclare Victoria, all the other bands. You go to Conductor, Gahard,
Ballygowan, Ballyloan.
There's
your Huntermere.
I don't know how many bands there are. Yeah, Roses Linens, one of my personal favourites, and then Kelswater I played with. Go check them all out. Flute Band League. I don't think they're really on social media, but I hope they are.
I was just happy to feel part of all those bands.
It is a privilege. There's been some great bands over the year. Well, we're going to wrap this up here then. We've done quite a lot of recording, so thank you very much everyone for tuning in. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It was very appreciated.
Thank you, Gary.
I'm sure this won't be the last time. I'm trying to rope Glenn in as well to coming in on with us if he's not too busy. But yeah, here's so many more of these. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary.